Here you are, face to face with someone you've definitely crossed paths with before, twice, possibly 3 times, and their name has simply vanished. Not floating just out of reach. Gone. Like it never existed anywhere in your head to begin with. And the really painful part isn't even the blank. It's the next 10 to 15 seconds of complete improvised survival mode. Slightly shifting your stance, praying someone nearby drops their name casually, or that a phone buzzes, or honestly that a small emergency breaks out somewhere. We laugh about it, sure. But people who do this regularly, the chronic, repeat offenders of name forgetting, are not thoughtless. They are not unkind. And they are almost definitely not as slow-witted as the world has quietly made them feel. Something very specific is going on neurologically, and once you actually understand it, the guilt starts to loosen its grip. So here's what's happening the second you meet someone new. Your brain is processing an absurd number of things all at once. Scanning their face. Registering their energy. Mapping out the social dynamics of the situation. Quietly calculating whether they seem to like you and whether you like them back. Mentally rehearsing what you should say next. Your prefrontal cortex, the brain's short-term holding area, is essentially spinning plates. And right into the middle of all of that, someone hands you a single meaningless sound. Their name. Hey, I'm Daniel. Daniel. Sure. Except Daniel connects to absolutely nothing. No image. No memory. No feeling. No reference point. It just hangs there, isolated, in a brain that has zero bandwidth to babysit a random syllable. Researchers actually gave this phenomenon a name. Back in 1987, psychologists McWeeny and Ellis ran a study that introduced what's now called the Baker-Baker paradox. One group of participants was told a person in a photograph worked as a baker. Another group was told that same person's last name was Baker. When tested later, the group who knew the profession remembered it significantly more reliably than those who knew it as a surname. Same exact word. Completely different outcomes. Because Baker as an occupation pulls a whole network of associations with it: flour, warm kitchens, early alarms, the smell of bread. As a name, it does none of that. It arrives with no luggage. Names are inherently disconnected from meaning, and your brain, ruthlessly efficient, holds on to things that are anchored to something real. Think back to the last memorial service you attended. You probably remember the scent in the room. The particular quality of the silence. Who broke down and when. A specific sentence that hit you somewhere below the ribs. What you almost certainly don't remember is what was printed on the program. Because your brain made a silent executive decision about what was worth encoding, and the printed text didn't make the cut. Names are the program. Everything else about that person is the room, the silence, the moment that mattered. Now here's where it gets a bit more personal, because this next part cuts closer than most people are comfortable with. A large number of chronic name forgetters are people who are intensely inside their own heads during social situations, not from arrogance, but from anxiety. While the other person is literally saying their name out loud, these people are running a private internal audit. Am I holding eye contact properly? Was that handshake awkward? Did I just cut them off? The name enters for half a second, then the internal commentary steamrolls over it entirely. This is documented behavior. In 1973, psychologist Malcolm Brenner identified what he called the next-in-line effect. People who were waiting to speak in a group retained dramatically less information about whoever spoke right before them, because mentally they had already moved on, already rehearsing their own contribution. People living with social anxiety or intense self-consciousness are essentially stuck in this state by default. Never fully landed in the present. Already halfway into the next moment. Which means the name gets offered exactly when they're nowhere near available to receive it. If that describes you, here's the shift that actually matters. You don't have a memory problem. You have an attention divided by anxiety problem. Those are genuinely different things. It's also worth acknowledging what this feels like from the other side, because the emotional reality of having your name forgotten is real and it would be dishonest to brush past it. When someone blanks on your name, especially more than once, it registers as a small, sharp signal. Like you didn't land. Like you didn't leave a mark. That's what it feels like, even when the rational interpretation is entirely different. The person who forgot your name probably replayed the conversation afterward. They likely remember something specific you said about your family, or the exact way your face shifted when something struck you as funny, or an offhand opinion you shared that they're still quietly chewing on. They were present. Just not for the label part. And here's the deeper truth about memory that most of us never really examine: it isn't a recording device. The brain doesn't file experiences the way a hard drive saves documents. It stores impressions. Emotional weight. Patterns. Fragments. It ranks and filters without asking your permission. High emotion goes in. Surprise goes in. Anything connected to something you already know goes in. One random syllable delivered at the precise moment you were trying to appear competent in front of a stranger? Statistically, not great odds. There's also a particular type of thinker who tends to struggle most with names, and they share a telling characteristic. They are deeply associative. Their memory is rich with context, stories, atmosphere, the emotional temperature of a moment. Ask them what someone wore to an event years ago and they might actually produce an answer. Ask them the name of the person standing beside that someone and you'll get a long pause and a genuine apology. Their brain was absorbing everything except the identifier. That's not a defect. It's a specific cognitive style, one that lends itself naturally to narrative, to empathy, to the kind of attentive listening that makes people feel genuinely seen, and lends itself poorly to the narrow mechanical task of locking down a name under social pressure. None of this is a pass on trying to improve, by the way. Repeating someone's name back in the first few seconds of meeting them, mentally linking it to someone you already know or to a strong visual image, these techniques genuinely work precisely because you're manually constructing the associative bridge your brain skipped building on its own. You're essentially giving Kevin a home in your mental map. But the shame, that quiet, persistent background belief that forgetting names makes you careless, or emotionally absent, or someone who doesn't truly register other people, that part is simply not accurate. And it's worth saying out loud because a surprising number of people carry it as settled truth without ever questioning whether the evidence actually supports it. You are not checked out. You are someone whose brain sorts the world differently, gets ambushed by its own internal noise, and occasionally fumbles the single least meaningful thing about another human being, the arbitrary sound someone else chose for them before they'd done a single remarkable thing. The name was always the least interesting part. What you actually remember about people, the texture, the personality, the real impression they left, that's been sitting in there the whole time. That part never went anywhere,